Okay, well, hello. It's been a while. Welcome back. We're doing a little something different today. Instead of a ride, we're going to do a little bit of work on Dee Dee. Nothing serious. No mechanical breakdown or anything like that. What we're actually doing today is we're going to upgrade with some heated hand grips. What we have over here is some Oxford Heaters heated grips. Not sponsored, of course, obviously, but just what I bought for my own bike. We got a few other things over here. A motorcycle mount bundle from 360 that I found on sale somewhere. I'm not going into, but so I got it because it was cheap, and I now have an extra stick and a mount here. So that's the plan. Just getting started, got her rolled in here, the door shut because it's getting cold and windy out there. Hence the heaters. It's January, and even though this is more temperate than most places, it still gets chilly here. But putting this in, we're going to have to probably take off the mirrors and move this up. I'm going to have to pull the tank and the seat and stuff to get to routing the wires. So get some extra lighting set up. Borrow Dad's lights over there because then we'll be able to actually see what we're doing. So yeah, I'm going to have to pull the tail bag, seat, tank. Go ahead, put her up on the center stand, get things kind of situated, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so we're back. I've got her on the center stand. I went ahead and pulled the seat off and the bag and stuff already. So I guess to start, let's do an impromptu review real quick. Now, these are Braun lights, LEDs from Harbor Freight. And as you can see, they are bright. One problem, apparently they don't think there's ever a reason to tilt these down. I mean, if they'd angled these brackets or even moved this mounting point back slightly, you could tilt these down. Instead, they don't. I've kind of got them loosened up so they'll hang down, but just so you can, that is as far down as it will tilt. And if you've ever worked on anything, you know most likely scenario is to want your light shining down into the work area. And instead you get that. I don't have a screen on, but I imagine you're probably cleared out right there. And that's with them angled down as I've got them. And they would be like right into your face trying, or you can put them behind you so they're not blinding you and you get that. So it really would be a benefit on these if you could bring it up and then angle them down. I could have it sitting over there shining down into the work area, but really I'm not sure that they're even going to be all that useful because I have to put them behind me so I'm not blinded by them, and I can shine them at the side, which I'm going to need to be looking down in there, which is why I have the old trusty drop light. So we've got to get the old grips off. I'm going to start on that side because I don't know if you can see this here. The original grip was not intended to have the rubber piece replaced. If you go to Honda for a new hand grip, what they'll sell you is the tube and all, which works for these because they're soft and it has ridges. Like this goes all the way down it, and it'll stretch and fit over them, and it works. But I've looked at these a little bit already, and these have a fairly rigid tube inside. So I went ahead and ordered from G2 Ergonomics, their throttle tube here. And so I'll be able to install the new grip onto that. I just want to start on this side and make sure everything looks good before I get this one off, because this one's glued on and that one is, on the throttle tube. But I'm going to have to take this loose. And these will not normally come off that easily, but this one was loose because I was trying to adjust it without loosening it earlier and popped it loose when I was on the road, which is always fun. Okay. And one thing I'm not huge on with these is, hopefully you can even see me because that glare. These don't have any kind of machined surface to grab them with, so really the only way to grab them is with the mount and then use it like a wrench to tighten them up in there. So you can't really get them super tight, so that does tend to happen when you're trying to adjust it while you're on the road. If you don't loosen this, as you can see, there's some space between my control and my switch pod. I did that, if you'll remember. I don't remember actually if I did a video on this install, but I had to do that to make space for the hand grip guards here, the deflectors, whatever you want to call them, because putting them on the inside, they were in conflict with switches and wiring and stuff on both sides. And on the inside like this, it cleared. And for me, this actually puts these levers in a more comfortable position, because originally it was more like that to the handle. And now it seems like this is where it should have been from the factory to me. You'll see if you pull it in, I mean, this is how it sits when it's pulled in. These I didn't really notice when I bought these. This is what I had to modify for these grips, because this one, the clutch would hit it and it was kind of like a brake there. You had to squeeze this down with the lever. And then down here, it actually was wearing through my glove when I was working the turn signals. And then it does kind of interfere with the flash to pass, but I don't use that much. So that one's not a big concern for me. So what we're going to have to do now today is mount these up. They have the wiring that will sit against here, and then that wire will have to route down. And that'll be the case on both sides. So what we're doing next, I'm going to pop this, just take it off so I can see what I'm doing in here. And then we'll take this loose and slide this throttle tube off here, way down. Okay, and I forgot to get my handy dandy little, whoa! This floor has texture in it, but it still gets slick and it's wet because I swept all the pine needles out. But I used the same broom that I used the day before yesterday to sweep the back of, or the bed of my truck out, which of course was full of pine needles and water. And so it's still wet because this is Washington. If it gets wet in January, it will be dry and ready to use without getting everything else wet by June-ish. Sometimes July. And if you think I am exaggerating on how wet it is, let me bring you over here and show you a little something on. You're going to think this is like set up or something unless you live in this area and know how it is. If you look through the gap there at the top of the tank, that is mold growing on my motorcycle. Right there. So, yes, it gets damp. And this is stored inside. So, yeah, it's a little damp around here. And unlike... Oh, wow, I just saw a big, right there, some growing in there on the brake switch. Yeah, so unlike places that are also moist, like Florida and Louisiana, we don't have the dry after the wet. We just get wet and then stay that way for half the year. I've got both screws out and now it's starting to split open at the top, but it doesn't want to come open. So you can see it's loose here. Pardon my gurgling belly here. Yeah. Let's see, if you come down here, if you look, it looks like a little notch right there, but I don't want to force it. I just want to get it. There we are. And so what we need to do is get this out so we can get these off. There we go. And now that's going to be, looks like 12 or a 13. Okay, I probably should have done that before, but that works. Why is that not moving at all? I was hoping not to have to mess with this. Okay, that one doesn't do it there. And I just pop this off of here before I knock it off of here and break something. Okay, we'll set that over here on the camera bag. I don't remember this being so hard last time. And my other adjustment is down. But the adjuster for the bottom end is on the side of the throttle body here. And I didn't have to mess with that before. I'm just not understanding why it's so tight up here with this one loose. And this one is slick. And I got a little close to the Marauder over here. Oh, what do I got on this? Is an 8, which I wandered off with. This battery charger is a little loud. It's just maintaining. Where did I put them? Found it. Okay, so we've got why they run stuff so that it's always in the way of everything else. Okay, let's. Okay. So here we are. We got the cables out of there, and that's what we were trying to do, is get those cables out so this will slide off. So, like I said, this is an assembly from Honda, and it's just, it probably doesn't show up in the camera, but if you could see it in person, you can see the grip actually goes like that because of the little ridges and hooks that they have on there. So there it is. That's why I bought this tube to replace the original tube. Hopefully. Yeah, okay. didn't want to go in there because of the angle, but okay. And so this is open-ended. I know it doesn't go that way. I know. I'm just trying to see, because I don't want to mess with hooking it up, but I wanted to see that it was riding in pretty much the same place on the tube, which it is. So now we can undo what we just did. Maybe. And then, of course, anytime you do anything like this where you've taken loose and adjusted your throttle cables or your clutch cable, brake, if you have a mechanical brake, this one's hydraulic front and rear with ABS, so it doesn't apply on this bike, but obviously this one doesn't have one either, but the Yamaha over there has the mechanical linkage to the back. Anytime that you adjust anything like this, or take it loose and put it back on, even if you didn't move any adjusters, it's very important that before you go ride, you fire it up and you just work everything. Make sure your throttle opens properly, that it closes properly, that your brake applies properly, whatever the case may be, because the wrong time to find out that you messed up your brake is when that deer runs out in front of you and you're zipping down the highway. Conversely, the wrong time to find out that you only have half of your throttle is when you go out to pass somebody and you don't have any acceleration, and now you're in a bad situation. So, okay. That looks pretty close to right where it was, so I don't think it made much of a difference in throttle cable length on going to this tube, because I don't think I got a good picture of it beforehand, but it looks pretty much by eye right where it was, with what feels to be pretty much the same amount of free play. I'm sure there's a measurement in there, but free play on throttle is pretty subjective. What you don't want is to be able to rotate this a whole lot before you start opening the throttle, and you don't want it to be on the throttle when it's pulled all the way back. So if you take this and adjust it, you can adjust this out tight enough that it'll start opening that throttle without actually turning the control. That's one thing you don't want. And then, like I said, the other is if you take it really loose and you can rotate this substantially before it starts applying throttle, that's also dangerous. So now we've got that. One other thing I want to check, this has non-hollow bars. And so I got these little caps because these hand grips are open on the end also. So I got some caps for the ends of the bar, and I just got to figure out what I did with them. There they are. And I don't know if the hardware that came with it, because they're not designed for this setup. So the hardware is probably, and by sheer luck, it works. So, but what these were supposed to be was they've got those hollow bar style clamps that go, it's got a nut on the end and they go in, and then this expands as you tighten it. And obviously that won't work here. But by luck, the hardware is the right size to screw right in there. So I just have to make sure I have something in there solid enough that when I tighten it down, it won't clamp down on the throttle. And we'll be good on that. So the next step is to get the heaters out and take a look at these. Why don't we just come on over here and do this, because it'd be easier for everyone. Probably. Okay, so we have a bracket here for the control, which doesn't come out of the end of the handlebar. It's just packaged that way. Yeah. So the controls, nice big button, designed to be worked with gloves, which isn't always the case because apparently some of these people have never seen a motorcycle. Now, one of these is slightly larger. If you ride, you're familiar with that and why. If not, what that is the throttle tube. That piece we just installed. That's what this is for. It's bigger so it can fit over that tube. The other side goes right on the bar. So, rubber stretched went on. These are not going to do that, so I got that tube for this purpose. And somewhere I have some grip glue, because this came with super glue, and I don't want to use super glue. But I might have to because I had that grip glue with crapsicles. I had the grip glue in here with this stuff and I'm not seeing it. Okay, well, anyway, so we can go ahead and move on now to looking at how these are going to have to route. I don't know if this is going to be loose enough to slide on there and figure it out and then take it back off or not. No. For many sakes, I don't know if I'm going to even need grip glue on that. I'm really not sure why they did it like this. Because there's no give here. Like none. You don't normally have to mallet on your hand grips. So it does have this spot in here where there's stuff sticking out. A couple of spots. Some flash from the manufacturing process. So I'm going to have to that's that tight. I'm going to have to make some changes to this. It's kind of odd. They put their name on it, but they put it on there so that when you install it on the bike, it's, I don't know, I figured they would have it on the back side where you could see it. Okay, well. Okay, so it will go on. But they want you to put it on and figure out where it goes and then take it off and then glue it. So they have two options on there. They basically like this and then rotate so that the throttle opens and this comes up here and route the cable under, or put it this way so that when the throttle opens the cable comes up and away from the brake lever. Now looking, this doesn't really stick out beyond the cables here, which reminds me I need to tighten these back in, but Anyway, so having it here isn't going to create an obstacle for this to hit, because it's quite a ways away. Even from, if I grabbed it that hard, I would be laying upside down under it anyway. So any way you want to do this, you should be okay on this particular application. And this rotates, that is the full rotation. So we come here and we rotate it, we can see where this will be. So if we do it this way, then it'll rotate that way. The problem with that would be that this cable is going to come up here. If we go this way, that rotated more than I think that's going to be the ideal for me on this side, because then I can route this with the throttle cables. Because it might be different on other bikes, but I have quite a load of cables and wiring already under the bar there. So I think going over the top here would be the better way to do it on this application. Plus, I like that it will rotate up and away and not up and into the brake. Okay, so now we need this one, and this is going to be noisy, because I'm going to have to turn the compressor on. So hopefully I can pop the glue and get this one off. I don't want to cut this unless I have to. So I don't know if you can even hear me over that. If you've never done this or seen this, hopefully it'll work well as an example, but sometimes it works better than other times. And there we go. Even took the glue right off with the grip. I'll go ahead and leave the hose out, because I'd probably go ahead and check the air pressure in the tires before I take off tomorrow. And one thing to keep in mind if you're planning on doing this is you want to let it sit. Once you put the grip glue on here and glue it in place, you want to let it sit overnight. They say 24 hours, but okay. So anyway, on this side, the routing's a little easier because this grip doesn't move. So one thing I don't know if I like is having them different. So we'll go ahead, and these are oversized. Let's see if I can get this down in there. So these are actually trimmed to fit, so you can see the end of the bar is right there. So you can cut this at the end of your bar, and that's how it's designed. So how they sell these is they have different styles. So they have the retro, which actually looks similar to what it came with. I know I have those here. So these are actually the original grips here. So the retro kind of looks like what came on it. But then they have the sports, touring, and adventure. And they sell them by the bar size. And then you just trim them to fit. I believe they said on there they have closed end ones available. Don't quote me on that because I actually ordered these quite a while ago. And I was waiting on other parts to show up. Once I got it, I actually got these, and then I had to adjust course because I realized that I wasn't going to get that solid tube over the original fitting there. So at this point, I think what we can do is go ahead and slide these off, get the glue on there, get them back on. I'm going to do this one. It's going to be easiest because it slides right on and off. That one, I don't know if you caught it because the camera kind of shut off right as it happened, but with a little bit of push, it started to actually slide on here. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and slide it on. And this is actually in the book. It says if you have a hard time and you're not sure you can get it on, if it's tight like this one is, put it most of the way on and then glue it. Because what you don't want to do is put glue all the way here and then get your grip up to here and then have it set, because then you're done. These aren't going to come off with the air pressure like that other one did because they're open and they don't stretch. So when it comes time to get these off, it's not going to come off and then put back on. It's going to be new grips. Cut this one off, change the tube probably again on that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'm going to do all that off camera because trying to get the camera in there, I mean, it's just going to be gluing these on. So the battery's about dead on the camera anyway. I'm going to change the camera, battery, the card, get these glued and in position. And then when I'm ready to start routing cables, I'll bring you back and we can show you how you wire this in. I'll go ahead and get all this popped out and then I'll bring you back when we're ready to move on to the next step.